You have probably heard the term cultural diversity lately. You probably know that it means a lot of different cultures living side by side, people who speak different languages, and they have different customs, and they might have been born in different countries. Well, that's exactly what the early days of the Georgia colony were like.
It can also be used not only for right angles, but for what else?
This is a math class at the Atlanta International School. The students here are from all over the United States, from all over the world.
My name is Marie Jacquemin and I come from France.
My name is Enrique Paul and I come from Spain.
My name is Cliff Tran and I'm from France.
My name is Chris Derb and I come from England.
My name is Diana Hemphill and I'm from West Virginia.
I'm Christian Diekmamela from Germany.
My name is Alexander Siavos and I'm from Canada.
My name is Allison Copes and I'm from Georgia.
My name is Kyle Wheatley and I'm from St. Thomas.
Hi, I'm Aline de Graaf and I'm from Holland.
My name is Oliver Lewis and I'm from Michigan.
My name is Ashley Harding and I'm from the United States.
The cultural diversity of our state now is a lot like the early days of the Georgia colony. There were people from France, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal, Africa, and of course there were Native Americans. One of the most colorful groups settled on the coast in a town they called Darien, and they came from the Highlands of Scotland. They came to Georgia because General Oglethorpe promised what they didn't have back home: land.
They were sharecroppers, so to speak. They lived on land belonging to a lord. They farmed and tended this land, but they never owned it.
And they were willing to defend that land. They were fierce in battle, and they had their own way of fighting.
They would use a musket to begin the battle, but after firing their single shot, they would lay the musket aside. At that point, they would take their shield, which they called a targ, and then draw their dirk, which is the Scottish fighting knife or dagger. The dirk would be held inside the arm with the shield like this, and then they would draw their broadsword. Swords were never sharp anywhere but right on the point. Main reason being that these are a weapon of considerable weight, 4.5 pounds. If it was sharp and I did manage to pierce an enemy, it would get caught in his bones. What you wanted a broadsword to do was to break bones. When he was down on the ground, you then used the sharp point to dispatch the enemy or to kill him.
The Scottish men wore kilts, which looked like skirts. And that may seem like strange clothing for soldiers, but the Indians were also good warriors, and they didn't wear pants either. Both Indians and Highlanders felt they could run faster and fight better in their traditional clothes. And the Highlanders had something else in common with the Indians: soft shoes, like Indian moccasins.
Indians and Highlanders looked on each other as nature's people. They were part of the land. They lived with the land, they died with the land, they stayed with the land. They saw no reason to separate themselves from the land. A soft shoe meant you could feel the land. You could feel the sand, you could feel the rocks. You knew what the spirit of your land was.
Clearly, the Scots were rugged, independent people, capable of defending the Georgia colony. And this includes the Highlander women. Margaret McIntosh, for example. Her husband was leader of the settlement and was held for 2 years in a Spanish prison. While he was gone, Margaret was in charge.
The Scottish Highland women were not fragile in any way, shape, or form. They could carry any responsibility that a man could carry.
When most of the men were off at war with the Spanish, the women had to be able to fight.
The women had monthly cannon and musket drills, at least monthly. Margaret was in charge of the cannon and musket drills during the time her husband was gone. Women were very, very proficient because they were under a constant threat of attack from the Spanish. There were 110 women at the fort at one time and only 7 men. These women were not going to sit by idly and wait to be trampled by the Spanish. They were prepared to defend the walls of their fort. At one time, because there were only 7 men and 110 women, Oglethorpe continued to write in his journals that the fort was manned. It was more like womaned because there weren't men here to protect it.
Once they were given this land, the Highland Scots defended it, and it became their home.
Darien is still here.
The Highlanders put the roots down deep, and they stay.
And today, if you look in the Darien phone book, you'll find the names McIntosh, Mackay, Campbell, and Popple. They're still here.